Somebody want to tell me what card we're talking about this week?
It is Zain, number 7.
Oh, the Hierophant's alter ego.
Oh, that's what it is, an alter ego?
Well, no, I'm just making an analogy. I'm making an analogy. Aggie sold a book, so I couldn't check things out.
She sold your book? Oh, dear Lord. How are you going to know what we're talking about? He read it.
I wrote the fucking book.
Well, you should have wrote it in better English.
Honey, it was a long time ago. Anyway.
I do have one question, though.
Okay.
Here where he's describing the 3 stars.
Yeah. But do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Ignore that entire septenary thing where it's dealing with the 3 sevens. And ignore the graphics for the 7-pointed star and the lingam. It was written 60 years ago, and it was written from a patriarchal point. The entire concept of Zain is the culmination of the first 3 cards. It's the first number 7. And however, when you were looking at at one place in there, I'm sure he told you about 3 plus 4 equals 7, plus 7 equals 4 plus 3. You know, we're back in that 3-4 movie. But that's in there, and that's valid. But all the genomics and stuff, unnecessary. We're talking people through this one step at a time. The concept of Zain is victory. The big problem with victory,
always victorious.
He says,
sometimes
always victorious.
Bad vision.
But he doesn't care. So you got this guy that, you know, he's sort of like Obama. If you're a terrorist and your wife and your mother and your kids are in the car with you, they're terrorists too. We'll just kill all of you. You see what I mean? That's his concept of victory. See, it's like, I mean, you know, he hits what he shoots at, but he shoots a lot. You know, he's like an automaton. You also get that concept. This is one of the big things. See, remember, I've been doing this left is right and left with you now for a couple of weeks. And he says right in there, he says it explicitly in there, the most valid part of this chapter. You're looking in the mirror. The left moon is the right moon is the left moon. You see, the bad guy is the good guy is the bad guy. Judge not that ye be not judged. That's the process we deal with here. If you can't see, smell, taste, hear, and feel it, that means it's got nothing to do with you. I mean, that means hearing it on the radio don't count. You have to hear it within your ass or something. Seeing it on the TV or newsreel don't count. It has to be something you visually see. If you can see, smell, taste, hear, and feel it, you're not only allowed to judge it, you're required to if you wish to be an adept. If something is going incorrectly within your astrosome, you are required to tell whoever is creating that dissension to either get the hell out of there or change their way. I mean, that's part of it. To know, to dare, to be silent, to will. That's part of it. I will also mention this time, you notice every now and then know and dare are transposed. Like the mirror. Sometimes you have to dare before you can know. You know, I mean, see, that's what metaphysics is. Metaphysics is the study of reality in contradistinction to itself. And this is where we're right in it. We've got the first 7 steps. We've got 7 colors, 7 days in the week, 7 sounds, 7 tastes. It's all 7. See, 7's a big number. That's why 3 and 4 are big numbers. And that's why it's important whether or not the 4 comes before the 3. It changes it from active to passive. When he talks about the dark moon and black magic and the white moon and white magic, he talks about that. And this, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he actually uses the word black magic. Okay? But he also says it's like looking in a mirror. The white moon or silver moon, you know, on the left, on your left, if you were touching the card, but he refers to it on the right. And he refers to the black moon as being on the left. This is the real key to this card. This is the real key. This is the real key. Whenever you're looking at someone else, you're looking in the mirror. You're only seeing the parts of them you recognize. And it's like looking in the mirror. It's a real, real lesson here. The concept of Zain, you know, I don't know if you follow the tree at all, but, you know, Zain's almost like Cain, or even Ain. But, you know, the entire Masoretic concept before we had a vocabulary, so to speak, when there were only a couple of thousand concepts available by combining the calligraphy. The concept of Zain is the concept of mutability. The concept of Zain is the concept of being able to present something one way when it actually represents the opposite. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like Zain is humanity's ability to lie. Heavy duty shit. I'm telling you. Heavy duty shit. Zain is a politician's ability to say he didn't do what he did, to try and make it seem like it's something else. That ability, that willingness, that lack of awareness. Zain isn't aware, the chariot, the warrior, is not aware that you're looking at him. You know, he's been there for a couple of thousand years. You know, I mean, he's your mirror. He doesn't know he's got a mirror. You know, he thinks his left shoulder's black and his right shoulder's white. So he's constantly judging, but he doesn't always have time. I know it's a hard one, but it's just word games. But when you're dealing with Zain, you're dealing with that concept of a person's my enemy, I ought to kill him. So that's the concept includes that ultimate judgment to where you're accepting responsibility for saying when someone should go into transition. Now it's unfortunate for, I'd say a good 11-12% of people on the planet at one point or another go through that. Fortunately, they usually only have to do it once. But, I mean, you know, that's one of the things that messes up these young guys that come back from Afghanistan or Iraq and stuff. I mean, they've been over there just killing people. You know, and when you kill somebody, I mean, it does something to you. You know, these guys go over there and they kill 100 people in a year or two. And you know, I mean, they're different. You know, they come back different. They don't have quite as much respect. Well, that's part of the concept of Zain. That's part of it. And yet they were made to do that. See? You see the correlation? See, he's just a soldier. He ain't a general. He's just a soldier. He was told to go out there and do that. See? So when you get into this concept and you're carrying it down through Daath or the hermit, when you put it on its respective place on the tree, I mean, you got this individual that's doing what it's told. See, it doesn't say to know, to dare, to be silent and do what you're told. It says to know, to dare, to be silent and do what you will. See, that's a basic grip in an individual's soul when they do that. You know, when an individual goes, particularly nowadays with the all-volunteer army. So it appeals to an individual that enjoys their left shoulder to start with. So it appeals to that combative individual. And then they make them more so and more so and more so. So they move outside of that realm of differentiation. They lose their ability to differentiate. And the seventh arcana is designed to try and teach you how to differentiate within self. Go all the way back to that seesaw again, active and passive. It never goes away. Yad Body, it never goes away. It's always there. That's the whole process, is to get that whole thing mellowed out. And Zain is the first time you're pushing it. Zain's the first time you have to do it to be able to go on. You have to be able to understand that dichotomy. I see this, but it might be the opposite. You know? Now, if you're sitting there with your physical eyes, seeing, smelling it, tasting, hearing, and feel it, you ought to react to it. But if you're sitting there watching it on this computer or a television, you ought to question it. Because I'll guarantee you, if you're watching it on the television or on the net, it has been edited. I mean, we even edit these videos here before we put them up on the blog. I mean, Aggie will sit there and take out people's names and stuff. You know, I mean, on the video you can't see, like you know, I mean, you're not there on the video. You know, I mean, so, you know, anything you deal with on the news and stuff is edited. So you have to trust self. That's the entire concept here. You have to trust self. You already been through the white and black thing. You already decided you really only want to do good. So you already decided that. So we're going to accept that here so we can convince you a little later that you may have to do some bad. But this is where you get to be the good guy. This is, you know, I may get shot, but I'm not going to shoot until I make sure the bastards got a uniform on, and I'm not shooting a woman or a child. You know, that type of thing. You know, that type of little judgment the military don't like. You know, that's what Zain is. Zain is the concept of saying, okay, I'll listen to anything, I'll blah, 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 but I'm going to make my own decisions. That's what Zain is. Zain is trust self. Zain is the ultimate trust self. Zain is when we get right down to the cookie bookies. Anyway, okay, let's Zain it up. Let's get zany. Questions?
So you're saying kind of Zain represents that when we see a situation that's in our space, that we need to judge that to find where self stands in this situation.
Correct. And you have to be aware of the fact that his left is your right.
Correct. And so like what they were saying in the book about the different planets and stuff.
Yeah, I don't get too much into the astrology stuff because there's so much argument about that between the Hindu astrology and this astrology and that.
But they were all going under different influences.
Right, right. So it has to be your influence. Zain is where you make the choice. Zain is the big I am. Zain is the big I am. Zain is the first completion of 7. No matter what his boss told him to do, no matter how fast his horse is, no matter how many arrows he has in his quiver, he still has an opportunity to decide when to let go of an arrow. Go ahead, Alan, you give me your Buddha shit.
Huh?
Go ahead. And what are you saying?
I love this chart that has the 3 sets of 7.
Right? Oh, that's your Buddha chart.
Yeah, the Buddha chart I have laminated.
That's nice.
So the Chariot is discriminating intelligence.
Excuse me?
Would the Chariot be considered discriminating intelligence? You know how they have those intelligence?
I understand. I'm trying to answer you accurately. See, the Chariot, once again, is capable of being anywhere from white magic to black magic. He's capable of just doing what he's told, or just doing as much as he has to, or actually being true to himself. I mean, there's a massive fucking spectrum there. And the entire concept of Zain, like back in the days before words, they used to build words by concept. Do you see what I'm saying? Here's a good one for you. Da. Da. Like dad, daddy, da. Dollars out. You know. Male consciousness. Da. Da. Try ma. Try ma. Ma. Ma, ma. Huh? Try nah. No, no. Come on, that's where words came from. This is where Hermetics started. This is the beginning of the alphabet. Screw all this other stuff that everybody's trying to peddle you. This is where it started. You know? And then concepts get separated into smaller and smaller and more divergent pieces, and we ended up with a system of linguistics to where no matter what you say, you can be proven wrong or proven right. I mean, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, because fucking words don't mean anything anymore. I mean, they just don't mean anything anymore. See? So, this is where that part started, the confusion. The ability, the young man, he's raised by his family and parents. Maybe he was a peasant. Every time the harvest came, the king's man come by and took 10% of his whatever the fuck he was growing. You know? And maybe he was a real king's man, and maybe he gave him the whole 10%. Maybe he hid a little bit in the woods. Whatever. But he didn't have nothing. He didn't own nothing. He didn't own nothing. If he found a girl he wanted to marry, you know, he had to let the goddamn king screw her before he could marry her. I mean, that was actually a law back then. Do you know what I mean? The guy didn't have a lot going for him. And the king says, okay, go down there and go to war for him. You know, the guy goes, all right. So all of a sudden, he's got this horse, he's got all this metal hanging on him, he's got bows and arrows and lances, and he's a hot shit, and now you don't have to marry a woman, you can rape her. I mean, that was part of the movie. That was part of the movie. Part of the movie. I think the first time they did away with that was in the Civil War. That was part of the movie. You see? I mean, things were rough. But that's this name concept. So here's this guy. He may have stole a little bit of the king's wheat a few times to make sure his younger sisters or his mother and whatnot had enough bread. But he's basically a good guy. And he ain't gonna rape any woman. And if anybody, any of the other soldiers that are right next to him rape a woman, he'll kill them. So the poor son of a bitch is all alone because all the other soldiers, that's part of their pay. They want to screw everything they kill before they kill her. You know, I mean, that's part of their pay. But he's an ethical man. He's an ethical man. He won't do it. And the other guys know he'll get pissed off, and he's tougher than they are if they do it around him. So he's always by himself. So he's a very lonely man. That gives him plenty of time to think about the difference between right and wrong. And so it's a wonderful concept. It's the seventh concept. It's the completion of the cycle. Did that work? Did I get that across?
Yeah. How is it different from the Lovers, where he's also trying to decide between the good girl or the bad girl?
The same way it's different between Jacob and Boaz, the same way it's... Reality is based on duality. I don't care what card, what concept I'm describing to you, I'm going to use a duality to describe it. I mean, what's a female? What's a female?
A masculine and feminine woman.
A female is the opposite of a male. You don't. Language is based on opposition.
Right.
What we're talking about here is not the opposition. We're talking about the spiritual freaking consciousness. To actually take the time to think about active and passive imbalance during times of stress. During times of stress, during times of pressure. That's what it is. That's what we're actually dealing with. But you see what I mean? It's not, Zain isn't the dichotomy itself. Zain is the ability and willingness to recognize the dichotomy. It's not the opposition, it's not the difference, it's the ability to see both sides. See, the Emperor and the Empress, or the Empress and the Emperor, I mean, no matter which one you put first, I mean, whether he's on top or she's on top, they can still make a puppy, right?
Yeah.
You know one thing, if she's on top, he's probably not regular.
No, Mike?
So 3 plus 4 makes a very nice 7. 3 plus 4 makes a very natural pleasant 7. 4 plus 3
was forced.
It could be forced. It could still be totally consensual. But see, how do you know? If she's on top, you know it's all right. You got it? I mean, it's a rough one. But if you get this one, man, the rest of them getting nice. See? It's like all the pentagrams are always upright. You know? If I'm not sure this guy's a bad guy, and I'm sitting there with my arrow on him, unless he tries to kill me or does something aggressive, I'm probably going to let him go.
So then the victory would be recognizing all the influences to where you can come to a true decision.
Victory is recognizing you are God. Victory is recognizing it's up to you. It's up to you. Your victorious and trusting self. It's up to you. Not what somebody else tells you. Self. Okay, so I'm sitting there reading this guy's card, and I told him, I said, dude, if I was you, and it was stuck out of his reading so hard, I said, if I was you, I'd go and ask the cops to lock me in a goddamn jail cell for the next 24 hours. I mean, this is bad. I mean, bad.
This is bad.
So him and the guy that I read just before him, they were together. They went out playing golf, partying, went home to the wives. He got up in the morning and went out to go to work, and some little kid stuck him up, shot him and killed him in his fucking driveway in River Oaks. In his fucking driveway in River Oaks. But I mean, you know, you see stuff like that. And I had to sit there and make a decision now. Do I tell a guy this because this is going to sound so totally wrong?
Right. Yeah.
But I told him and he didn't listen. But how the hell would he avoided that?
He has to make his own choice.
How the hell would he avoided that? He literally would have had to get locked in jail. And maybe somebody in jail would have done him, see? It was like a karmic thing. But, you know, so you have to make those decisions all the time. You know, I'm sitting in a restaurant, there are 2 or 3 people in there dying. I can't just go walking up to them and saying, blah, 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 blah.
No.
You know? So that's what Zain is. Zain is your ability to discern. And discernment is one of the nicest words of all these words that don't mean anything, because it basically represents trusting yourself. That's what Zain is. And I'm out here, I'm going to kill people, but I know I'm a good guy and I'm only going to kill bad guys. You know, and you can even delude yourself enough to shoot without looking and just trust that the arrow only hits the bad guys. Sometimes that's the most effective way, actually.
Yeah.
You know? Because you can't hesitate too long.
Right.
You can't hesitate too long. So you just got to trust that. You know, if your fingers are sore, let go of the arrow. God damn, I wish there was a way to talk. I wish there was a way to put telepathy into words for you poor fucks. I mean, it's like, I know you're goddamn near getting what I'm saying. But it's like, it's almost irrelevant.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yes.
It's kind of like doing massage work. There was one time, very early on when I first got my license, I was going to people's homes, and I was working on this lady, and this voice kept telling me, tell her I'm okay. Tell her I'm okay. And it was a woman's voice.
Right.
And I just didn't know that, I didn't know this woman that well. I've been working on her sister for some time, but this was the first time to work on her.
Right.
And I couldn't bring myself to say it. Well, when I called back to check on her the next day to see how she was feeling, I let her know. I said, I have to tell you this because it won't leave me alone. It keeps bothering me. I said, while I was working on you, I don't know who it was, but it was a woman's voice that told me to tell you that she's okay. And she started crying. Well,
Mother, sister?
Well, I don't know. I never heard from those people again.
Right.
So I'm thinking that that was probably the wrong thing to do. And since then, I feel like if something like that comes to me, I'll tell the person if I feel like they can handle it.
Right. Now listen to me. Listen to me, Cindy. This is something important to remember. You probably got more people, more power, more control, and more spiritual growth from their fear of you than you can get from people liking you.
Okay.
You frighten them. That's all.
Well, that's what I thought.
So, but you have to understand something, honey. You're exceptional. And you have exceptional ability. I'm going to see you in a few weeks.
Well, I was wondering if it was like this victory. You know,
of course it's victory. Of course it's victory, but it's like, okay, it's also a recognition that you're different. So now you're developing that discernment when or not to allow people to know you're different.
Right. And that would be the victory thing.
Right.
The discernment part. Okay.
It's an understanding of self, a trust of self. Now,
right.
What's going to happen in a very, very short period of time, now that you're allowing yourself to commercialize yourself, within a year you'll have 1 or 2 exceptional cases. And then, against your will, without your permission, there will be an undercurrent, rumor if you wish to call it that, around a sizable area that house lady is something special. Oh, what do you mean? Well, I heard, you see, that don't hurt nothing. That's your gasoline, honey.
Well, that's advertisement.
So don't worry about them people being scared of you.
Okay.
You didn't hurt them. You helped them.
No.
You helped them.
Right.
But, you know, maybe it was her mother or something, and she
That's
let,
what I felt like.
or she let her mother die or something. You know what I mean? Maybe she's got some guilt about it. She don't want to hear about it. You know, you did fine. You did everybody a favor, and yourself. And you wait and see. Allow me to tell you something, honey. You, Cindy, anybody that I deal with on this Monday Night Plan, if anything was going on, I'd tell you before you ever asked me. Talk to Aggie for a bit. What I want you to do when you're on the next chapter.
Yes.
All right, it's important now. I mean, this was a major thing here. What I want you to do is I want you to apply this to that.
Okay.
I want you, see, this is where you have to find the duality. I'm not going to, I want you next week to tell me where the duality is, where the opposition is, where the, do you see what I mean? I want you to find the opposing points.